Welcome back. So in this module, we're going to be delving deep into why negotiating can be a challenge. Maybe you find particular things daunting or challenging about negotiating. And don't worry, because you won't be alone. We've carried out negotiation skills training courses throughout the globe, many different companies, many different groups, and also different levels. But there's always little things that people find challenging. Initially, usually it's the feeling of daunt. They find it daunting to negotiate until practice makes perfect, until you become more familiar with negotiating, and also before you have a change of mindset to really understand that actually negotiating is a lot of fun. I'd like you to please just pause this video for a moment and think to yourself, what do I find most challenging about negotiating? And also think why other people might find it a challenge too. So yes, please pause this video, have a think, and as soon as you've gathered your thoughts and have some reasons that you feel negotiation can be daunting, please restart it and we'll look at the list. Okay, great. So now hopefully you've got a list of reasons, maybe just applying to you or perhaps other people too. But here we have the top 7 reasons that people find negotiating a challenge. Okay, so see if they apply to you. The first one, the most common, a lot of people don't like conflict. And I can understand that because, a negotiation situation can seem as if it's like a conflict, as if you're combating against your counterpart. But in actual fact, it's better if you have the mindset that you're working with this person to reach a common goal. By doing that and by having this attitude as you go into the negotiation, it's going to come through in the way you converse, but also it's going to affect your mood. If you don't feel as if the person is against you and that you're actually trying to work with them to achieve a goal, it's going to help you to not just enjoy the negotiation more, but also to be more creative with ideas. Now, the second main point is I don't want to upset other people or lose friends. So this is a very personal thing. Some people don't want to say the wrong thing or not be able to come to an ideal solution. So they might feel a little bit put off about getting into the scenario, or maybe not push the negotiation as far as they otherwise would if they weren't so worried about losing friends or upsetting people. But similarly to the first point, you're going in there because you want to work together. Okay, so keep that in mind all of the time. If the other person didn't want to work with you, then they wouldn't be in the room with you during the negotiation. Now, the third one, I feel I must win everything I attempt to do. Some people like to succeed in every aspect, and that's great. They like a challenge. This is something that as you do more negotiations, people will realize that you can't win every negotiation. And we'll talk about this later on in the course and how to deal with that situation. But you have to have a walk away strategy so that if the terms of the deal that you're negotiating do not match your counterparts, or if they're not going to be beneficial to you, there's no point in going through and just doing the deal for the sake of it. You have to know when, at what point exactly to walk away. And you have to walk away at that point. But dealing with that is something we'll discuss later. So yeah, with a negotiation, you can't always win, but it is winning as long as you've built the relationship and trust of your counterpart. So you can count that as a win. The next one is I find negotiation time and energy consuming. Well, it is, but it does get better. The more practice you have, the more experienced you become, you'll work your system and you'll have it nailed down. So when a negotiation is coming up, you'll have a checklist so that you can tick off point by point the research that you need to do. And I'll actually be giving you a checklist later on in this course of things that you need to be sure of when you're preparing for your negotiation before you even go in the door. So, as you become more confident, as you become more systematic, the time and energy will reduce and it won't seem so cumbersome. But initially, until you get the practice and the hang of it, it might well be, but it's all a learning curve. Now, the next one, I'm afraid that the other side has an advantage or other options. Now, as I've noted at the bottom of this slide, it is all in your mind. You don't know that for a fact, but obviously, it's a concern. It's this little voice that people have in their head. Oh, they've got the upper hand. Now, I'm going to be showing you further on in the course, very soon actually, how you can work out your BATNA, your WATNA, and your ZOPA, which it's easy for you to do it for yourself, but also you need to establish those for your counterpart. Again, this comes down to research and planning, but we'll be discussing that. The next one, I don't like being challenged on thoughts and beliefs. Again, as I've mentioned higher up here, it's a very similar thing. You've got to treat the negotiation a bit like a game. You need to gamify it as much as possible. It might be serious. It could be extremely important. There could be a lot of money and stake on the table, but it is still a form of game. You need to be dynamic. You need to change your way of thinking, whatever happens. You've got to keep trying to find ways around to find a solution. If you keep the sort of game mindset and always trying to play your best as if it were a sport, then being challenged on your thoughts and belief gets incorporated into that game scenario. So it's, again, a good change of mindset to have. And the last one, I'm afraid others may see me as ineffective, weak, and incapable. Well, you will get a thicker skin the more you do negotiate and the more you practice negotiating. This is something obviously that's going to be personal to you or to other people. But again, my advice to you is to follow the thinking of it as strategic, a bit of a game, and nothing personal. Leave emotions at the door as best as you can. But definitely, when you're in the negotiation, don't take anything personally and don't make anything personal yourself when you're communicating with your counterparts. Anyway, so those are the top reasons that people have barriers to success with negotiation. Maybe some apply to you. I hope what I've mentioned to you will be helpful. But yes, just in summary, never take it personally, make it a game as much as possible, have a good strategy and plan. And we'll be discussing that in the next module. Speak to you then.